Bill, my good friend, you have been selling real estate for as long as I've known you. That's at least, what, 20 years?
Yep.
And in that time, I mean, you've seen ups and downs. You've seen all sorts of market changes. There was a time just 3 years ago, as we were discussing earlier, that the governor declared that real estate brokers were not essential because of the COVID lockdowns, and they just didn't know how to get their arms around all of these weird sort of things that were going on. And now, of course, we do realize, and we've always known between us, that real estate brokers are incredibly essential to the market. And I'm sure your sellers and your buyers would say the same thing.
I hope so. It was really annoying there for a while when we were deemed non-essential. We could do anything we wanted in our business except leave our house. That was just crippling. We couldn't go pull a lockbox off a house. How do you do business? Fortunately, that part's over, and the world has come back to its senses. So let's move on to something more fun.
Absolutely, and thank goodness that we're past that. But what a unique experience. And I'm not saying it was a good experience. I'm just saying that universally, everyone that I know, if you said, hey, what were you doing in April of 2020? Like everybody has the same sort of answer. And there's going to be some flavor to that, of course. Some people were climbing the walls, going crazy. Other people were like, I slept in, or whatever it is. But, we've come out of that, thank goodness. And during 2020 and 2021, huge market rallies in real estate and mortgage lending. That was a strong time in the market, 2 of my best years ever, despite all the weird stuff that surrounded that. How did you do, and how did your clients do during those years?
My clients did well. I sold a number of houses. Interest rates were ridiculously good, in the low 2s, and the economy was screaming right along, despite the fact that most people were doing everything they could to stay home.
Right.
But focus became on the home. People upgraded their home. They wanted a bigger kitchen. They couldn't get any work done on the one they had, so a lot of people moved and bought that bigger, better kitchen, bigger, better house, and it was a good thing overall, except for the whole, COVID.
Right. Well, except for the whole pandemic that was hanging over everybody. Yeah, but people did move, and people found, we called it the COVID castle, that people were looking at their home now in a completely different way since they were forced to stay there. And this is significant because now people are looking around and saying, well, if there's ever going to be another one of these things again, hopefully never. I certainly, though, if I am going to go through that, I want to upgrade my house. I want to move either into the bigger home or the smaller home or whatever it is. So let me ask you, how do you help your clients determine if it's the right time for them to sell a home?
How do I help them determine if it's time to
sell a home? Yeah, if it's the good time in the market, if the home itself is ready, if they're ready.
Well, for a seller, it's always a good time to sell your home if you're looking to sell one and buy the next one. You find the balance on both sides. If it's a good market for the sellers, it sucks for them as a buyer, but it's balanced when you're both sides in the same market at the same time. If you're moving across country or to a completely different market, that can change. You need to recognize what you are in each market and see how the market is treating you. But if you're moving locally and you want to upgrade your house or downgrade or whatever, in the same market, it's all good. There's never a good time or a bad time. It just is. If you're getting a loan and the interest rates are high, that could be a bad thing. But overall, you're not gonna lose on the house that you're selling or buying because it's gonna be balanced.
Gotcha. Are there things in particular that you advise sellers when they do decide, hey, we're going to sell our home, Bill, we want you to list it and represent us on the market? Are there things you advise them to do that will help generate higher prices?
Yeah, and it seems very strange these days, but when you're listing the house, don't list it for top dollar. List it with a little bit of room because there are still a shortage of homes out there, and having a little bit of wiggle room for the buyers to come in often leads to multiple buyer situation that drives it up and over if you ask for top dollar and had a smaller pool of people come to look at it.
That is really interesting. So we're talking about now the psychology of sales.
Yes.
And we see that if you are a little bit less, I hate to use the word, but I'm going to use it, a little bit less greedy up front, there's an opportunity that other buyers will find an opportunity and they will push beyond your wildest expectations.
When you get 2 or 3 people fighting for that house, the price goes up.
Wow. So the idea then is to price it in such a way that encourages people to take a look at it, brings in the multiple buyers and the multiple offers, and creates a bidding war.
Absolutely. Setting an offer review date. Usually I do that about 10, 12 days in, finding it on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or so for an offer review date. So people have 1, hopefully 2 weekends to review the house, and then they have the opportunity to turn in the offer Monday or Tuesday for a Tuesday, Wednesday review.
Got it. Interesting. So going back to that initial conversation, though, you're meeting with your sellers, you're going to list their home for sale. You've already kind of done your research to figure out what you think would be the right kind of price to list to start with. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, and I usually indicate a range that I think is a fair value for the house, $20,000 swing, $30,000 swing. And, most people leap toward the top of that, but I advise them that there's an advantage to being at the bottom of it too.
Wow.
Trying to get that multiple offer situation instead of, as you say, being greedy up front, better to leave the market a little bit of cushion and get more people in the house to drive up multiple offers.
Interesting. It's a really hard thing, I would imagine, for people.
Damn near impossible.
But they trust you, and you've already earned that trust and established your professionalism with them.
Well, and, giving them the range and saying, hey, as long as you pick a number in this range, I'm good with it. I expect we're going to get it sold. I can't tell you for certain which way is going to work better, but my experience says if we go toward the bottom of this range, we will have more opportunity to get multiple buyers.
Nice. It must have been tough for some sellers because the market changed really quickly from when rates were really low about a year ago, and then rates changed, and those sellers that brought their homes to the market and missed that ride. I mean, they missed it. It felt like it stopped on a dime.
It felt like the market went off a cliff.
Yeah.
The sales just stopped there when I remember they went from like 2 to 4 in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It was insane how fast it went up. They were telling us that the rates were going to go up over the year from like 2% to 5%. And I seem to remember that it took about 2 months instead of a year. And they ended up going up to 7%, which was just terrible.
Right. And that did impact the buyers, obviously, right? I mean, I think the buyers got smacked right in the forehead with that big interest rate increase, and they just hit the brakes and said, whoa, I can't do this right now. I was expecting half of this price on monthly payment. So, that also impacted the sellers, of course. Now, how do you help, how do you coach people through something like that? It's a once-in-a-lifetime
There wasn't
change.
much opportunity to coach them. The market just pretty much stopped. The buyers stopped. People just weren't at all interested because they were going to look at a house that was crappy compared to what they looked at last month in their price range.
Yeah.
Because their price range went down, and the house prices didn't follow suit right away. They've fallen 7.5% over the last year, and that's helped find the balance. But we still have a shortage of inventory, but we also have a shortage of buyers. There's less going on now than there was a couple of years ago. We're still on a shortage of inventory, but the buyers are slowly coming back. And it's amazing. When we watch the interest rates go from 7% down to 6%, there's a surge. It is plain and obvious. Hopefully the interest rates stabilize here and drop a bit over the next few months, and we can get back to work.
Right, absolutely. So how are you coaching your buyers now who are sitting on the sidelines? Are you suggesting to them, hey, at least start getting more knowledgeable, at least start looking around more, or is everybody kind of taking a wait and see attitude?
Depends on the buyer. The advice that I tend to give is owning a house is far better than not. And your gaining equity, whether or not you've got the high payment or the low payment, and you can always refinance when the rates come down.
Right.
So get the house, start building equity, refinance when the time is right.
That's always good advice, and I share that advice with people as well. This is historically, owning real estate is one of the ways that families generate wealth for themselves, and I love the idea of building wealth. It's something that most people have some kind of desire for that. I don't think that they articulate it as well as they should. It's not necessarily driving a fancy car or having, pretty jewelry or things like that. I think when I think of wealth, at least, I think more of being able to go to sleep at night, not worrying about making my bills the next month or the month after that.
Well, and truly wealth building, and not just referring to it as wealth, but wealth building. If you go buy a sports car, it's going to go down in value. If you buy a house, it's going to go up.
Right, right. And that is where a lot of people have the bulk of their net worth, even if they're investing in their 401k or they're investing in the stock market in general, which also has gone up and down along the way.
Freaking yo-yo.
Yeah, it's like a yo-yo, exactly. I don't do cryptocurrency. I know that some people have done that, but I don't understand it, and I tend not to invest in things I don't understand. But with real estate, that's something I can touch. That's something I can see. It's something I can actually live in if I needed to. Whether it's an investment home or my primary residence, I have a sense that in the right markets, those properties are going to continue to appreciate over time.
It's real. I can work on it. I can fix it. I can own it. I can sell it.
Yes.
These are all good things.
Now, do you have clients for whom or to whom you advise on how to maximize their profits or their property? Like, for example, they're doing now ADUs or things like that in some of these markets in King County and Snohomish County that they're allowing for small little accessory dwelling units to be put on the properties. Are you seeing that in your market?
I haven't seen that at all in my market. I've heard about it up toward King County, but I have not seen it at all in Yelm. We tend to buy houses, have them, watch them go up in value, sell them. Sometimes people upgrade, sometimes people downgrade as they're getting older, and empty nesters and senior citizens, they tend to downgrade their house to have more cash available. But cleaning up the kitchens, cleaning up the bathrooms for, repairs and upgrades and updates, and, get rid of the funky green laundry machines from the 70s. All of these things make a big difference in the investment when you go to resell it.
Sure. And I think, not just from a resale perspective, I think it makes a big difference for you and your enjoyment and use of the property because
Absolutely.
You're living there, right?
Yeah.
So having upgraded appliances, for an example, would make your life easier as you're enjoying the home.
Absolutely.
And that's a big part of real estate.
And we're seeing the evolution of houses too. Things, the structures of homes that are being built to a different need than we had 30, 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, you had a kitchen and a massive dining room because families got together and ate in the same room. Doesn't so much happen anymore. We're seeing a rise in home theaters, home offices, a reduction in dining rooms. In fact, in a lot of cases, they're just flat out eliminating them, putting in a bar counter instead of a dining table. To me, that seems weird, but it's the way of the day.
Interesting. I do agree with you that homes are starting to change. I've seen now more and more homes with a space built in there for an elevator. As I know you're looking at me funny, but as the population ages, if they're building 2-story homes, they're creating a small little shaft space for a 1 or 2 person elevator to take them up to the second floor. Now, in the past, people who have gotten older, their knees don't tolerate the stairs, they downsize from a 2-story to a rambler.
It is amazing. Almost every person that I see come to me with at least 50 or 60 years under their belt, they come to me and they come up and say, we're kind of unique in this, but we want that 1-story home.
I don't think that's very unique.
No, it's not unique at all. It's the most common thing, but they all think it's just them.
Right.
It's just them.
And as the population ages, we still got that gray tsunami, as they refer to it, all those boomers that are going to be retiring, have already started retiring. As they age out of the homes that they are currently living in, or that they raise their families in, they are looking for those smaller footprints, for those one-story homes, so they don't have to deal with the stairs. They don't have as big a yard to maintain. They don't have as big a footprint in general. And so that's a big part of the market.
And it's a shortage on the market, which is, one-story houses cost more per square foot than two-story houses. They just do.
Right.
Cost more to build. There's a bigger roof, a bigger foundation, and it takes a larger piece of property to put a one-story house on. So the builders generally don't like them, and they don't want to build them. They want to build the two-story house because they get more houses on the plot of land, and more houses equals more money.
Right.
But the seniors that we're having a big, the population's getting older as the boomers age up, and they all want one-story houses. So the builders that are building one-story houses, good move.
Absolutely. And are you seeing, what is the demographic that you're seeing? Like, is it across the board? Are you seeing a lot of the boomer generation, a lot of the millennial generation? Who's your avatar client these days?
For years and years, my bread and butter was first-time buyers. Now it's shifted more toward sellers. I'm a little more seasoned in the business and able to attract the sellers, which was a harder thing in my earlier years. It's less running around for me.
Right, absolutely. So how do you attract a seller? Are they repeat clients? Are they the people you sold the home to in the first place?
Sometimes. I've got a listing up in Burlington right now that's I sold the house to them 12 years ago, and now they're getting ready to move off to Kansas because their daughter got married and moved to Kansas. And they're following her.
Wow.
And nice to be in that position to be able to not have jobs and everything where you can pick it back up and go.
Sure.
And family's the most important thing, and yay.
Right. Well, it would be a good time to be up in Skagit Valley right now. The tulips are blooming.
Yes, it is.
It's fantastic.
Perfect time.
Oh my gosh, I saw that on the news just the other night. The photos are spectacular.
Yeah.
So.
Season's a little late for the tulips this year, but they're there.
Right, right. Well, we are fortunate to live in one of the most spectacular, visually spectacular states in the country.
We live in a beautiful state.
And a lot of people still want to move here.
Yep.
And a lot of people are still coming into this state. And that means, again, more demand for housing.
Yep.
And so as a seasoned real estate broker, how do you separate yourself from the pack and deliver that quality and that value service to your buyers or your sellers?
Professional marketing. It's amazing how many people in this business don't understand marketing. They think, oh, I'm going to sign a listing and then miracles are just going to happen. It takes professional marketing. I'm making videos. I'm making postcards. Old school stuff still works. The new school stuff, the videos still are working great. I use photography to tell the story of a house. I use the video to give perspective. It's how you show the flow around the house. The photography provides details. I do both. Most agents don't.
Let's talk about that, because I know you've got a passion for photography, and I've seen some of your work. It's really, do you post your work online?
I do.
You do?
Yelmphotography.com.
That's fantastic. I've seen some of your really cool stuff with the lights. I don't even know how you do what you do, but you make those lights just elongated and stuff like it's really cool. And I imagine that when you're photographing homes, you've got a different eye than some person who's just doing it because it's their 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. You'll find agents that are still walking around with cell phone cameras, walking into houses, taking pictures. And I just look at it and go, how the hell are they doing that and trying to present themselves as a professional marketer? Cell phones, they've improved tremendously. You can take really nice snapshots, but you can't show the full perspective of a room with a little camera with an eraser head for a sensor. It takes a good full frame camera and a nice wide angle lens to show the whole room and to provide enough quality detail to show the room and show it well.
Nice. And so then shifting from photos to video, because now everything's video, right?
Right.
I mean, and here we are on video, which, yikes, right?
Go figure. I'm looking at 3 cameras in front of me shooting video at me.
Absolutely. But how do you bring that eye to the video process, which seems a little bit different than a still photo, which is more of a moment in time?
Yes. I love doing photography. It's clean, simple, and neat. Put it on a tripod, set up the shot, stand back, make sure you're catching everything you want to catch. Put the self timer on, click the button, keep your hands off the camera while it's clicking. It's the opposite of video. It's all hands on and trying to stabilize the image and get the shot. And I find myself keeping the video shots to less than 10 seconds.
Huh.
Over and over and over through the house, 10 seconds or less, because you just simply can't hold a camera that steady. You can figure out what shot you're going to do, and you can repeat that 2 or 3 times. If you happen to have a little jitter, so be it. I use the camera stabilizer as well, and that helps quite a bit. Complicates things sometimes, but more often than not, it really does create that nice, smooth video. But 10 seconds or less, that's kind of how I try to shoot the spaces. I don't do a walking, talking through the whole house video. Some people, they think they can get away with it. Some of them actually do. Very few.
Yeah.
Me, I do the video, and then I do a voiceover describing the whole thing. I don't put it to music and just show panning through the house. I'm actually describing what's going on in the house and what I'm trying to show you.
I think that's really helpful because I've bought homes in other states sight unseen. And I know that sounds goofy, but they're investment properties. And so I'm looking at certain aspects of the home and trying to figure out if it's going to be a good investment. But I'm still counting on my real estate partner down there to actually show me the home. I don't want to see just some piano music over a few photos that are stitched together. I want to really dig in and see the home. And I've seen that in the past, especially when the market was really high. There were people doing video tours for out-of-state or even out-of-country buyers, which is a weird thing, but as one of those out-of-state buyers, guilty as charged.
That's one of my big focuses. I live close to JBLM. So when I'm setting up a listing, I am putting a tremendous amount of thought that the buyer is going to be a military person, PCSing, permanent change of station for the military term, that I'm advertising to that military buyer that may be out of state, may even be out of country. Last year I sold one. The husband was military in Korea. The wife was military in New York, and they were both getting transferred to JBLM, and they bought a house that I had on the first day, sight unseen. Their agent came to the house. He took a couple extra pictures and videos of things they were curious about, and boom, sold.
Wow, that's a great service that you are providing, not just to your sellers, of course, but to prospective buyers, especially the military buyers who deserve everything that we can offer them and more for their service to our country. But they're so far away, and they've got specific, I don't want to say special needs, but they've got specific things that they need perhaps in a home, like proximity to the base or other things that we might not be thinking about.
In general, military personnel are required to be have to live within 60 minutes of base on a normal traffic day, so that if they get called up, they can be on post within 1 hour. So there's a set range around the military bases, that houses that qualify and houses that don't, simply based on geography.
Interesting.
That's one factor. The rest of it is, people. Whether they're single, couples, families, they're people.
Sure.
And fortunately for us, they stand on a wall and give us the freedom that we enjoy.
Absolutely. And they deserve whatever we can do for them. One of those things, of course, is the VA loan.
Absolutely.
Speaking as a mortgage lender, and I would encourage anyone and everyone, if you are a veteran, if you are retired, or if you're active military, or Coast Guard, of course, take advantage of that VA loan. That is the least we can do for our veterans and for our active duty. But it's an amazing program.
As far as I know, it's the only loan that can be transferred if you were lucky enough to buy when they were at the 2% rate. If you end up selling your house, you can transfer that rate, and that will be a huge selling point. You know, if you got your rate at the 2% mark and you're selling your house and the buyers are looking at a VA loan and they're looking at the 7s, they can take over and assume your 2% loan.
Yep.
I can't imagine how much of an advantage that is going to be as time goes by.
Absolutely. For anyone who's selling a home who's got that VA loan, what Bill's talking about is assumption. And VA allows for that. Some FHA loans also allow for that. Some of them do. But the buyer still has to qualify under the terms of that loan. And but as you said, it is a huge advantage to anybody who's selling a property if you've got an assumable mortgage that is in the low price range or rate range compared to where we are right now in the interest rates. That's a huge advantage, and it's very, very attractive. And the listing broker on a home like that should make notes to people that that mortgage is assumable.
Oh, that's in the first first sentence of the marketing remarks.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing for your clients, right? You're bringing value because not everybody knows this. Not everybody asks those questions, and certainly if they're not aware of it, then they can't make other people aware of it, and they're doing their sellers and buyers a disservice.
Absolutely.
So those are the things, in my opinion, that everyone does their job, however they do their job, but not everyone is as good at doing their job as others. And that's where success is built, right? Taking care of clients, honing your skills, learning about your craft, and then delivering value is, in my opinion, one of the best things that we can do for our clients and ourselves. But not everybody does that.
Success leads to longevity. You and I have both been doing this business for right around 20 years.
That's right.
And there's a lot of people that didn't make it 20 years.
Absolutely.
And a lot of new people that are coming into this business right now. After the last couple of years, there was a lot of new people, new blood coming in, and it's unfortunate that a very small percentage is going to make it through this year.
Yeah, that's true. It's been feast and famine. And not everybody's prepared for that. And I take as a personal point of pride that I have created my life over the last 20 some odd years commission only.
Yep.
Like, I don't draw a salary, and neither do you.
Nope. You sell, you eat, you don't.
Absolutely. And so, we do what we do to help our clients. The income and the longevity and all the rest of that is a benefit of the work that we do. And people look at it and say, wow, it sounds like it's so much fun. It sounds like it's so easy. I'm going to get involved. And when the market is good, that's great. But very few people know how to survive and how to take care of things when the market is not great and where it's really hard to find your next client, where people are waiting it out, sitting on the sidelines. No one's really sure what the Fed's going to do. No one's really sure what pricing is going to do. So we just do what we can and help those that we can.
And I agree with that completely. And I would also add to it that it does get a little easier as you've been in it more than 15, 20 years. We have those repeat customers that come back. So nice to have repeat customers coming back.
Absolutely.
They already know you. They trust you. They've done work with you. They know your work ethic. They know what they're going to get.
That's right.
And they want that again. I've had people from title and escrow companies work with me. I had a lady that owned one of the little real estate magazines.
Oh, sure.
Lady worked with me, and these are people that know everybody in this business. When they choose you, that feels really good because they know everybody and they chose you.
That's right. That's right. I think that's one of the greatest compliments you can receive is either repeat business from someone you've helped in the past or business from someone who has access to the entire menu of professionals, and they've chosen you because of what you bring to the table.
It's a great feeling. It's great for them. It's great for us. And all I can say is I hope it continues.
Absolutely. So one or two more questions here. What do you see for the future of real estate?
Prices are going to continue to go up. They haven't gone up for the last 12 months, but that will come back. Real estate is the most sound investment you can make. Over time, you will make a 7 or 8% return the longer you hold it. There is no stock that you can say that consistently about. Real estate is that solid investment. It's real. It's there. It's been there forever. It's going to be there when we're in the ground.
Well,
And
hopefully not for a long time.
not for a
on that
long
last
time,
statement,
hopefully.
but
Knock on wood.
yes, there you go. Absolutely. But I agree with you on that.
But,
I really do.
The investing in property is a great thing to do. Whether you buy land, buy a home, buy 10 homes, the more you invest in it, the happier you'll be in the long term.
Absolutely. Do you have clients that are buying investment properties now? Are you seeing more of that?
I haven't personally, but I'm sure they're out there. Prices are down. That's when the people gobble them up.
Right, exactly right. And I personally love the investment home. It's something that I share with clients. The idea of buying your first home and living there for a couple of years while you save for a down payment on the next home. Mm-hmm. And that's really the challenge that a lot of clients have is saving money for that down payment. But when you buy a home as an owner occupant, you can come in. VA is the best deal because you can come in with 0 down payment, but FHA allows for 3.5%. So that's a relatively manageable down payment. Once you buy that first home, live in it for a couple of years, save the down payment for the next one, you can move into that next one as an owner occupant as well and turn the last one into a rental property.
And most loans only have a 1 year hold that you have to be the owner occupant, and they don't allow rentals.
That's right. That's right. So after a year, you can turn that into a rental. And if you are young enough, if you are mobile enough, if you are a good saver, you can, in the course of 10 years, have 5 homes under your belt.
Absolutely.
And what a great way. Talk about building wealth, because now your tenants are paying for your mortgage.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's a great thing. If you've got, and we're the only country in the world that I'm aware of that does a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So you can basically figure out what your costs are going to be. Now, taxes are different, right? Property taxes go up. We can't really control that other than how we vote and who we decide to put into office locally. But the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that payment is fixed. Your tenants are paying that payment. So they're paying down your amortization schedule, which is what we refer to as forced savings. You're saving money in your home by making those payments, whether it's an owner-occupied property or an investment property. Every time you make a mortgage payment, part of that payment goes to pay down the principal.
Yep.
And that's a forced savings account, because when you sell that home, as you said, the homes are going to go up in value. At the very least, you're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Equity is savings.
Equity is savings. That's exactly right. On top of that, you get appreciation of value, so you get a bump, and you get to leverage your down payment. And I tell people that truly to build wealth, you got to think about leveraging the money that you've got. And not very many people understand that you cannot get the same return on the stocks, as an example, or even on crypto, as an example, as you could on buying a home.
When you have that home investment and tenants paying your rent, as the years go by, the rates go up for the rental. But if you have that 30-year fixed mortgage, the only thing that changes is the taxes and insurance, which is a small portion of the payment.
That's exactly right. And so these are the ways that we can help our clients plan for the future, build wealth. Ideally, if they start early enough and young enough, working with you, working with me, we can guide them through several iterations and several home purchases, which will give them a nest egg for themselves or their kids in the future, kids or grandkids.
Absolutely.
So this is something that I want to continue exploring. It's something that I want to continue sharing on social media and sharing with clients in person, so that they get a real sense of the power of real estate and leveraging. And it's not something, unfortunately, that people understand until they see it on paper.
See it on paper, and when they get the checks.
That's right. That's right. When you sell that first home, or when you see those rental checks come in and you see the equity growing as you're paying down the mortgage, or as your tenants are paying down the mortgage, it's a really wonderful way to protect yourself for the future. I've said time and again, and I think you would agree with me, people always need to have a place to live.
Usually, yeah.
They usually need a place to live. Now, we've seen office market, the office building market right now is really in rocky territory.
Yeah, so many people are moved out with COVID. They moved out of the office buildings and started working from home. The office at home demand went through the roof, and people were finding all kinds of creative ways to, it wasn't just converting a bedroom, it was converting a dining room, it was converting part of a living room to be an office at home. And the corporate offices in downtown cities were just vacant.
Right.
And they're still having trouble. There's millions of square footage available in Seattle still.
That's right. The San Francisco office market is down 30% vacancies.
Wow.
They are selling buildings that are 80% discounted to what they sold 2 or 3 years ago. So that market has changed completely, but the home market has taken the exact opposite turn, in my opinion. I think, as you pointed out, people have found a way to work from home. Now, I know that companies are trying to get their people back to the offices. And
some of them are.
Some of them are, and it's a give and take. It's really an interesting proposition, but you still need a place to live.
Right.
And COVID, as we started talking about at the beginning, COVID changed the way we see our home completely. If I'm going to be locked into some place, I want to be locked into some place that I'm comfortable. Hopefully it'll never happen again, but now that the genie's out of the bottle, we don't know that it won't happen again.
Right.
And so I want to prepare myself and be in the most comfortable place I can. I want to have good fiber optics or high-speed internet if possible. I want to have space. I want to have whatever I need. And so that's the future, I think.
Yeah. Part of the present is actually some of these office buildings in downtowns are being converted to living spaces.
That's an interesting approach. I'm curious how they're doing that with the plumbing, with the utilities, with the electrical, with getting the waste out of the building. That's interesting.
But if you can't rent it as an office space, you got to do something with it. You can't
That's
leave it
right.
vacant forever.
And you can't tear it down. The cost of destruction is too much.
Fortunately for me, I live in a rural community, so that's not really part of my world. But
right.
I keep reading about it, and it's happening.
Are you seeing more people coming out to the country and to the rural communities for more space, for more affordability, for?
I see people moving out from Lacey and Olympia out to Yelm because we're cheaper. They can't quite afford the rates for the house they want in Olympia or Lacey, and they just end up shifting a little farther out and accepting a little bit more of a drive to be able to have the home they want.
Gotcha. So in Texas, when I was living there working in real estate, we used to say drive until you can afford it. And that was a lot easier in Texas because they just had flat and they just rolled out interstate. As by the mile, it felt like.
I spent some time in Texas, and it had the strangest urban planning of any place that I ever saw. And every time I commented about it, people just told me, well, it's not as bad as Houston.
That's true. Houston is a really hodgepodge of a city. I lived there for 5 years, and their zoning is completely without rhyme or reason. And I don't think it's gotten any better.
That's what I heard.
Yep, absolutely.
I've never actually visited the town, but...
the people
city,
are lovely. The people are wonderful.
Texans in general are great people.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So a couple more questions. If you've got a young person who wants to get into real estate, what would you recommend they do? How would you recommend they get started?
Buy whatever you can afford.
Buy whatever you can afford.
Live there for a few years. If it's not a place that you want to be long term, sell it and move on. You'll take the equity, have a nice down payment for the next house. That hopefully will be the one you want.
It's fantastic. I love that advice. I agree with you. In fact, you're not going to get perfection. I've bought several houses over the years. I still haven't found my forever home. As much as I love where I live, it takes some time. And then some people build them, like you, right? I mean, you built your home, right?
Yep. Well, I didn't. I wasn't doing the hammering and the nails.
Sure.
But I hired the contractor. I did the layout and design of my house, and then took that to an architect, and he, made it so that the builder could build it. This is where I want the rooms and all that. And my wife and I and my son, we all love the home. It's a wonderful place to live. We use damn near every square foot of it just about every day.
Wow, that says a lot.
Yeah.
That's not everyone has that. I've never built a home certainly not with the hammering and the nailing. That's not my skill set. But it's overwhelming in many cases to think about all those decisions that need to be made, all the choices that need to be made. But if you know what you want and you know how you're going to use that home and you have the ability to create that opportunity, what a great treat for yourself and for your family.
Yep. And, the great thing about designing it in the computer at home with Photoshop was, oh, yeah, okay, we can make it a little bit better if we did this and make it a little bit better if we did that. And I looked at hundreds of floor plans online, and it took days to find one that didn't suck. And then I finally went, hey, I can fix this one. And a couple of days and probably 50 evolutions of my wife and I looking at it and going, oh, well, it could be better if it had this. It could be better if it had that. And we just keep tweaking it. And we finally got to what we wanted and took that to the architect. And the architect was thrilled with us. He came to us and looked at us and said, wow, most of the time I start with a blank sheet of paper and I have to figure out what's in your head.
Wow.
You just brought me the paper and went, well, there's half the time. All I got to do is make it architectural. I can do that.
That's great.
And he gave us a nice break on the price because we made his job easy.
Good for you guys, and good for him as well. I mean, not everybody knows what they want. And so I would imagine, having seen as many homes as you've toured and sold over the years, and knowing yourself and your family, you had a sense of what you're looking for and how you want to use that home and how you want to live there.
We knew what we needed and what we wanted. We it was a nice, stable home. But my wife and I have been married for 20 years, and so we know what we're going to do. There's not a big, shocking, revolutionary change that's going to happen in the way we live our lives. So, we knew what we wanted. We just had to figure out how to get it.
When you speak with your buyers, do you find that they know what they want, or that they have an idea, or are they just completely blank sheets of paper that they have to see a home or two in order to figure out what they don't want?
Honestly, it depends on the age of the couple and the relationship and age of that. 30-somethings that have been married for a year or so, they don't know. They got to go figure it out. And sometimes it works out good and sometimes it doesn't. I had a couple once where he wanted the farmhouse out in the country and she wanted the nice modern house in city, and things didn't work out well for them.
Yeah, that's a tough one to kind of make.
I couldn't find a house. I could find a house that would make him happy, and I could find a house that made her happy, but I couldn't find a house that made the two of them happy. And then a year later, I ended up selling him a house. They weren't a couple anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. They wanted such different things.
Yeah.
It was good and bad that they hadn't been together that long to have kids or anything. It was a relationship that came together, and they got together on a lot of good things, but they wanted different things in life.
Right. I think real estate helps people figure out what they really want. When you start to think, how do I want to live? What's a priority for me? How many kids are we going to have? How many rooms will we need? I think those questions are really well answered before someone gets into a marriage. Yeah. But certainly once you're a couple, it will help you crystallize the direction your family is going in when you start to look at real estate.
And I will say that when I'm showing typical 50-year-olds that have been married for 20 plus years a house, the showings are quick. They walk into the house and go, nope, not the one. And we're out the door. I'm trying to figure out why is the only, I'm trying to figure out the why. They know. I just need them to explain it to me so that I can help them find the right thing. And that's the bigger delay than it is going through the house and them realizing, nope, that's not the one.
Wow. Is it a vibe? Is it just an energy, or is it?
No, they find the spaces and, this kitchen won't work. Next.
Okay.
This bedroom won't work. Next.
Wow.
And they want what they want and they know it. Just got to find it.
That makes your job a lot easier,
It does. It's frustrating at first because I don't know what's in their head. They haven't explained it to me in most cases that well. And even if they do, we want a big kitchen. What does that mean? To you, that means one thing. To my wife, that means a completely different thing.
Right. Right. She cooks a lot.
She cooks
bakes,
a lot,
right.
Bakes and everything else. We have a giant kitchen in our house, which is completely contrary to the modern construction. It's New homes come with tiny kitchens because people eat out so much now.
Right.
That has shifted since COVID.
The Uber Eats and the
People are in city. People are doing the Uber Eats. In the country, we don't have that.
right.
So the kitchens have gone back to being bigger. The pantries have gone back to being bigger. Pantries have become a thing again. They were
I love
gone
a
for
good
a while.
pantry. I love a big pantry. My parents had one in the home that I grew up in, and it was great. We would just go in there and find sweets and treats and stuff. I love a big pantry.
We were talking about the design of my house. We actually have two pantries, one
Really?
walk-in, one reach-in.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, like I said, we live out in the country. It takes 20 minutes to get to town, a little farther to get to a grocery store. So, we stock up a lot more than the typical person.
Right. But that's a lifestyle, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew what you were getting into, and so you designed the house in such a way to accommodate that, to
Exactly.
make it more comfortable.
Yep.
And that's really neat when people can find the match for themselves in that home and for the way they want to live and for their specific purposes. That if you can find that, that's great. If you can't and you can design it, even better. But hopefully you're able to find that for your clients as well, and they can make that space work for their families.
Some homes are stepping stones. Some homes are permanent homes.
Yeah.
And both are good. The stepping stones, you got to take those steps to get to that permanent home. We hardly ever anyway, find people that start off with that kind of money. They need to start with the house, the small one, build some equity. Usually the first-time buyer owns their house for 5 years or less, and then they sell it and buy a little bit bigger, a little bit better, and by the time they're 3 houses in, they're in a house that they're comfortable being in for the long term.
Right. And I think, that moving up is good for people, not just from a budgeting perspective and an affordability perspective, but also you learn about yourself. You learn about home ownership. You learn about what you really value in a home and what you think you really value in a home until you have to deal with the maintenance or until you have to deal with some of the other costs of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of differences between our generation and our parents' generation. My parents moved out of their parents' house when they got married, rented a house for a couple of years, and then bought one. And they owned that until the day they died.
Wow.
I can't imagine buying my first home and staying there for 60 years.
Yeah, that's not something that I would do either. It's
just a foreign concept.
Right. Well,
it was the norm in our parents' day.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I love seeing the evolution of our society through the changes in real estate. As you mentioned, now we've got bigger kitchens in some of these homes and bigger pantries because we've got to accommodate for the COVID backlash or that memory, that echo. Things are changing.
Priorities have become more in the home.
Yeah. And that's great for us because it gives us more of an opportunity, once again, to help people at a deeper level. It's not just selling them a property. It's selling them a home, selling them something that they're going to be living in, that they may be locked down in for a while. Hopefully never again, but who knows?
Yeah. I can't imagine going back to that crap.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll never happen. But I think understanding the value, I love being at home. And I love being in my home. I enjoy cooking there. I work out there. I've got a gym membership and I go out to restaurants, but there's something about doing that at home, controlling my environment, controlling my schedule, knowing what I'm eating, knowing how it's being cooked. And I think a lot more people are seeing the value of that, especially after what we did experience as a collective country and, people in general.
Yeah. We were both privileged for that. We all kind of got locked down in the beginning of COVID. And for me, I truly enjoyed my prison. We'd only lived there for 3 months when COVID locked down. And
Wow.
I had a very nice prison. I had a house to finish moving into and setting up, had a shop to set up and make some projects, and got a lot of projects done in that period, and got to enjoy my shop and enjoy the property, and it was good from that perspective.
So what other things would you advise people as far as getting ready for real estate now? Summer's coming, and we're going to be in the selling season. Hopefully inventory is going to come up as
Spring market's here.
right.
It took a while to get started this year, but it's here now. People are waking up to selling homes. They're waking up to buying homes. It's coming. The buyers are a little slower. Interest rates keep bouncing back up and down, and every time they bounce up, it slows down.
Right.
But the market's there. The market's real, and owning a home is far better than not.
Absolutely. And I know you're going to continue doing your best to take care of your clients, whether they're selling a home or buying a home or doing both. I know you're definitely going to be here for the long haul. And I think real estate is it for you, right? I mean, you're
20 years and counting. When I'm done with this, I'm done working.
There you go. There you go. So good luck with the summer market, the spring market. Keep taking great care of your clients. Keep taking great care of those veterans, active military as well. They deserve top
Nothing
notch.
but the best.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be with you, my friend. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.